Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to another edition of Movie Goodness here on the KB Radio Network. And this is where we examine life through cinema. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and today we're going to do things a tad bit different. Um, Today we're going to talk about some serious topics, and quite honestly, I couldn't bring myself to review a film to go along with our topic. In case you've been living under a rock for the past week, there's been two stories that has popped up that are fairly serious, and at least serious to me. Something that I'm not going to say I hold near and dear to my heart per se, because these are two uh, bad things, to put it in layman's terms, bad things to discuss. But domestic violence, and we got another school shooting that took place in Nashville. Uh, just what that was Monday. Um, and it's deeply disturbing. It is deeply disturbing to the point where, you know, it was hard for me to sleep. Thinking about at least the school shooting, the domestic violence issue that we're going to discuss is the ongoing case with Jonathan Majors, and his arrest over this past weekend, where he was charged with domestic violence and assault. But there are so many conflicting stories coming out of that story, and that's what we're going to discuss concerning that. Not going not going to go into it with a biased opinion, because I'm a huge fan of Jonathan Majors. Full disclosure, I enjoy him in every film that he has been in, even if the film is not super exciting. I love him in him. I think he's one of the best performers working in Hollywood today. And if you listen to a few reviews that I've done of films that he's been a part of, you know that I am a giant Jonathan Majors fan on the big screen and on the small screen. But as far as the personal life is concerned, I don't know anything about Jonathan Majors. I don't know what he do on his spare time. But this was kind of like a gut punch when it came to that issue, when found out about the arrest and everything. And what we're going to discuss is not so much him, but more us being the culture, us being people, us being society, how we are quick to jump to conclusions about a situation without knowing all the facts. And that stems from every situation that pops up on the news or on social media. We immediately come to our own conclusions without knowing all the facts, and it's getting to the point where it's kind of disgusting, because of course we all have our opinions, we all have our thoughts about uh situations. Like when we first see it, we're like, oh yeah, I could see that. And then when we find out later on, all the story, or both sides of the story, then we have to recant, either to somebody we talk to about it, or to ourselves, like, oh, got that wrong. you know and I always live by the fact, uh this is a saying that I have, don't make $100 decision on 15 cents worth of information. You want to get all the information before you come down to a decision. And so, uh, that's what we need to really lean into when it comes to situations like this, because honestly, we don't know all the facts, because so much has happened in this case. You've heard this side, you heard that side, then you heard that side not recant, and then the other side do something else or say something else. It is like it's confusing in a way. And so before you jump into all of these accusations and make these accusations and assassinate somebody's character, and it don't have to be Jonathan Majors, it can be Joe Blow, whoever, it could be you. Just imagine if somebody said something about you, or accused you of something and you didn't do it, you will want people to give you the benefit of the doubt, let all the facts come out before they come up with a decision. Basically, put yourself in their shoes. And so we're going to discuss those two topics today. Now, if I have time, I do have a movie picked out, and I'm not going to mention it just in case I don't get to it, but I might do it. I might. It depends. But we're going to discuss these two topics concerning Jonathan Majors and the school shooting that took place today. Oh, not today, but earlier this week. Let's start off with Jonathan Majors' little saga that's currently going on. Jonathan Majors' arrest is still a developing story. This is still an ongoing investigation, if you will, but it hasn't stopped the internet from jumping to conclusions. Jonathan Majors is 33 years old. He recently starred in Creed 3. He also was in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania as Kang the Conqueror. Um, he was arrested over this past weekend, Saturday night or Sunday morning, depending on when you gauge that, after an alleged domestic violence incident involving a 30-year-old woman. The public response has been swift and severe, you know, with tweets and comments and reactions. They were divided into two opposing camps, if you will, Team Majors and Team Victim. Um, Both presented problematic all or nothing thinking. There were those who pointed the finger at the alleged victim, quickly attempting to discredit the woman who claimed to be a victim of domestic abuse, and those who labeled Majors as just straight up guilty. you know, he was guilty before proven innocent. Regardless of the murky details and the fact that black men historically face more frequent and harsher punishment than their white counterparts. Yes, there is a racial byline throughout this story, uh, because it's facts. It, and we're going to back it up. We're going to back it up as we discuss this. You know, we don't have all the answers as to what happened with this incident with Jonathan Majors and the 30-year-old woman, but the instinct to pick a person to vilify says a lot about the state of our culture. Now, those who are experts in trauma and domestic violence note that when people choose to weigh in with opinions about the alleged abuser, whether it's positive or negative, before expressing care for the alleged victim in a situation like this, it perpetuates ideas to the rest of the world about who is more important. I have a quote here from Darius A. Green, who has a PhD in counselor education. This is what he says. Be mindful that Jonathan Majors isn't reading your tweets. Folks who have survived or experienced abuse are, as well as folks who have abused or abused others, those are the folks you are communicating to. Domestic violence, which can be physical, sexual, emotional, or even economical, is a public health problem that affects millions of people in the United States every year, according to the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. About 1 in 4 women and nearly 1 in 10 men have experienced some form of domestic violence. Psychiatrists say many people don't want to believe someone who has qualities they admire could be capable of harming them. Think back to the way the public quickly sided with Johnny Depp in his defamation trial against Amber Heard. They were making memes, they were making videos, and a mockery of her testimony. Here's a quote: when you already want to believe something, you need less evidence to keep believing it, and you're more willing to accept any evidence that is in favor of it without thinking more deeply about it. This is a quote from David Piazzo, a professor in the Department of Psychology at Cornell University. Um, he goes further to say, when you're presented with information that goes contrary to what you believe, then you actually start thinking more deeply about it in order to counter argue. Now, here are some, well, not some, but one important part of the Jonathan Majors arrest that we just can't ignore. I mean, it's the elephant standing in the room. Uh, Conversely, because Jonathan Majors haven't been proven guilty, experts say the public should exercise caution in painting him as the bad guy, especially because black men tend to face more swift consequences for alleged actions than their white counterparts. Black black male offenders, on average, receive sentences 19.1% longer than white male offenders in similar cases, according to a study done by the U.S. Sentencing Commission in 2017. Jeff Rocker, who is a therapist and mental health expert, he spoke on the Jonathan Majors situation. This is what he says. When you make comparisons to people in similar situations, white men have nowhere near the amount of public criticism as Jonathan Majors has gone through. White men are given the benefit of the doubt, and this is coming from a white man. As as more developments unfold, all eyes will be on the existing Hollywood projects Jonathan Majors is attached to. We already know that the Army immediately pulled a planned ad campaign starring Jonathan Majors. I remember seeing a few of those commercials. And as soon as this arrest happened, they immediately came down, which is understandable. That's you had to. I mean, that's just common sense. Um, but the actor was also slated to appear in future Marvel films, and he will star this winter in a bodybuilding drama entitled Magazine Dreams, which gained buzz out of this year's Sundance Film Festival. Some on social media have argued that Majors losing the Army campaign proves a double standard in the industry. Ezra Miller has faced a string of abuse accusations and legal woes over the past year, but is still slated to star in the probably the biggest blockbuster of the year projected Warner Brothers The Flash this summer. Ultimately, those participating in online discourse about the case needs to consider the message they're putting into the world. Online reactions can often work to the further harm. From the headlines to the memes to the hashtags, those messages are perpetuating stigma, operating to further isolate and silence survivors. Uh, it's not just the survivors who listen, the perpetrators are also listening. Take your time before you judge people. This is coming from don't do it prematurely without knowing all the details. Here are the details that we know thus far, and I'm getting this from CBSNews.com. So this is the report of what took place this Sunday with Jonathan Majors and this 30-year-old woman. Actor Jonathan Majors was charged with assault and aggravated harassment during his Sunday arraignment after his arrest in New York City. Officers arrested the 33-year-old actor on Saturday in Manhattan in connection to an alleged domestic dispute involving a 30-year-old woman, police said. She was taken to a hospital with minor head and neck injuries after the alleged assault. According to the criminal complaint, the woman was struck about the face with an open hand, causing substantial pain and a laceration behind her ear. Uh, uh, Jonathan Majors allegedly put his hand on her neck, causing bruising and substantial pain. He's also accused of grabbing her hand, causing swelling, bruising, and substantial pain in her finger. Jonathan Majors' criminal defense attorney on Sunday said the actor is completely innocent. She said she expects the charges to be dropped based on evidence. This evidence includes video footage from the vehicle where this episode took place, witness testimony from the driver, and others who both saw and heard the episode, and most importantly, two written statements from the woman recanting her accusations. All the evidence proves that Mr. Majors is entirely innocent and did not assault her whatsoever. Jonathan Majors' attorney also alleged that the 30-year-old woman was having an emotional crisis. I have no idea what that means, but that's what the lawyer has said. Prosecutors with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office requests Majors be placed under supervised release with a full order of protection issued for the woman, a spokesman said. A judge granted a limited order of protection for the woman. Majors was released on his own recognizance. He is set to return in court on May the 8th. In the wake of Jonathan Majors' arrest, the Army pulled advertising featuring the actor. An Army Enterprise marketing officer spokesman said. The reboot Be All You Can Be ads were designed to boost recruitment. The U.S. Army is aware of the arrest of Jonathan Majors, and we are deeply concerned about the accusations surrounding his arrest. We've recently released two ads in which Mr. Majors appears, the Army marketing officer spokesman says. While Mr. Majors is innocent until proven guilty, we've pulled our ads until the investigation into these accusations is complete. Now, going back to the Ezra Miller of it all, and what Warner Brothers is dealing with their situation, Disney's situation is familiar to Warner Brothers' situation with Ezra Miller. As the lead of DC's The Flash, Ezra Miller also represents a comic book cinematic universe meets a PR nightmare. One key difference is, to date, Jonathan Majors maintains his innocence. Miller, on the other hand, announced that they were seeking treatment for mental health back in August of 2022 following multiple arrests. They pled guilty to trespassing in January after a May 2022 Vermont home break-in and received 1 year probation. And in August 2022 statement, they said they had begun ongoing treatment. Warner Brothers' decision to move forward with The Flash is likely aided by the fact that seemingly everybody who has seen The Flash, those executives who seen a cut of the film, love the film and think it's going to be a big moneymaker for the studio. Many months ago, an insider who saw the first edit told IndieWire.com that it was already one of the best superhero movies they've ever seen. And if you've seen the trailer, not to go off base a little bit, but if you've seen that trailer for The Flash, I tend to believe that it looks like it's going to be amazing, but there's still that stigma of Ezra Miller being the star. It isn't like he's just in the film. He's the star. He is the Flash. You know what I'm saying? And so it's kind of murky there. Now Tom Cruise saw the film a couple of weeks ago. Now I know you asked him, like, why would Tom Cruise wanted to see, and Tom Cruise released a statement saying, yes, that this is the film or the superhero film that everybody has been waiting for. Is Tom Cruise the foremost expert in comic book movies? I don't know, but he loved the movie. The Flash is set to be released in June of this year. Jonathan Majors also received kudos for his debut as Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, with many reviews singling him out as the highlight. And I'm one of those. Um, I wasn't. I liked Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I didn't love it, but one thing I did love was Jonathan Majors' portrayal of Kang the Conqueror. He stole the movie. You know, even though that film was a slight bit disappointing, but nobody coming out that movie thought that Jonathan Majors was the problem. You know what I'm saying? So eh, his star was going up, and then a couple of weeks after that film was released, Creed 3 came out, and it was the same thing. Even though I think a lot of people liked Creed 3, I don't know if too many people loved it, but they liked it. It was good. But Jonathan Majors was amazing in it. However, um, Marvel films are distributed by Disney. No studio wants to find themselves under the spotlight of a alleged assault arraignment, you know, but they're Disney. This is family friendly Disney. Now, Jonathan Majors is also going to be in a film I mentioned before, magazine Dreams, which is a bodybuilding film. That's why he's all cut up, you know, looking like I don't know, look like a I don't know. The dude is just a enormous. There's a big dude, and he looks like a bodybuilder. But the film was at the Sundance Film Festival. It was acquired by Searchlight, Fox Searchlight, for distribution later this year. Well, in an ironic twist, Disney owns Spotlight, or Searchlight rather, and they were hoping to highlight that film for the awards consideration at the end of this year. It was just that good. It was, you know, so many rave reviews were coming out of that film festival for this film and Jonathan Majors' performance. Um, it desperately wants to avoid the callback to a couple of years ago, maybe I don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, when um, Sundance had another hit, The Birth of a Nation, which was directed, produced, and starring Nate Parker. Um, which was a film about slavery. It was a real good movie. I liked it. I only seen it once. I can only watch slavery movies one time. But anywho's, the problem with it was Nate Parker was accused of rape back in 1999. He was acquitted in 2001. Now, you would say, okay, he was acquitted, so all is well and good. Well, the problem was his accuser committed suicide in 2012. And so that brought up all that stuff, you know. And so Fox Searchlight, which also distributed that film, had a lot of blowback. Now, The Birth of a Nation was supposed to be this awards darling of that year, and because of all that, no awards, no nothing. You haven't even heard from Nate Parker. I think I've seen him in one thing since then. You know, his career just went bloop from that. So it's kind of, you know, they don't want to get caught holding the bag again with this situation, you know. So it's kind of like, oh man, what do we do? Now, speaking on the less important side of this situation, because this is really the trivial side of things. Honestly, I think Jonathan Majors being king is the furthest thing on Jonathan Majors' mind right now. Now, there is a lot of projects lined up for Jonathan Majors on the Marvel slash Disney side of things. Yeah, there were speculations that he will pop up in Loki season 2, which is coming out later this year. There's also Avengers Kang Dynasty, which is in the works. I think that comes out. Is that next year? I don't know when that come out, but anyway, there's that, and then there's Avengers: The Secret War, which comes out I think the following year. So it's there's a lot concerning Kane, in the grand scheme of the MCU moving forward. Now, could Disney and Marvel recast Kane? Sure, they could. Sure, they could. This is where it differs from the Ezra Miller situation. See, Ezra Miller, that movie was shot, filmed, money was spent, the effects were done. It's ready for release. It's been ready for release for about over a year now. And so it being pushed back really helped the situation some as far as Ezra Miller and Warner Brothers, because you got some distance in between the incidents that took place with Ezra Miller and the release of the Flash. Now it's still gonna come up, but at the grand scheme of it all is not clear and present. You know, whereas with this situation with Jonathan Majors, he's not the well, that's a lie. He is the focal point because he's the big bad. It's like Thanos, right? From the previous phases of the MCU, the first three phases. Thanos is what everything led up to be, that big villain. Now, if something would have came out about Josh Brolin, you know, coming up to that point, yeah, it would have been a problem, because it all led up to that. And it's the same thing here. Everything in phase 4 and phase 5 and so on will lead up to Kane. And we're going to get sprinklings of Kane or variants of Kane moving forward until we got to Kane's dynasty. So he was a major part, and he was going to play every variant of Kane. And so now it's a problem. it's a problem that can be solved. One, they can recast. Two, he could be cleared of the charges. If he is cleared of these charges and the charges are dropped, I think we should drop it. We should drop it and let it go. I mean, why are we passing judgment? If the courts or the district attorneys feel there's no evidence to you know charge him any further, then we need to let it go. But if he is guilty, yeah, recast, move on. Move on. Because I don't condone domestic violence of any sort, whether it's male and female or female versus male. I don't condone it, man. I was always taught, don't put your hands on a woman, and for no reason whatsoever. And I know a few women who are domestic violence survivors. So it's near and dear to my heart. So I don't rock with that, and I don't have any respect for a so-called man who puts their hands on a woman. If you be big enough to walk away, be big enough to walk away. Like I said, I don't know the situation. I'm not sitting here passing judgment. I'm not swinging on any side of this pendulum. Uh, I just hope that whatever happens, that the truth prevails, whether it's in favor of Jonathan Majors or not. I just want the truth to prevail and justice to be served. So that's my feelings on that situation. And to hammer on the point that us as a society need to hold up, just take a step back and let the courts do their due diligence. Now, this is coming from a man who has little, and I mean little, faith in our judicial system. But I just want them to do their job. Let all the facts come out. It don't have to be for the courts, but for everybody. If we're gonna sit there and well, the reason I say for everybody, because he is a public figure. And so this is the job you signed up for. So all your dirty business will be for everybody to gawk upon. And so let us all see it. Let us all come to our fair judgment of the situation. Don't just fly off the handle and make an unfair judgment, whether it's for Jonathan Majors or for the 30-year-old woman whose identity is being withheld. understandably. So, uh, I just pray for the best, whatever the case may be. And I'm praying for Jonathan Majors, and not so much for to prove his innocence. Even I'm praying for that, but I'm also praying for if he isn't innocent, then maybe this would change him. Maybe this will uh humble him in a way. If he is rightfully accused here. So we shall see. Time will tell. Let's just be patient with it. We'll definitely find out by May the 8th, when he returns to court to face those charges. All right, so let's move on to an even darker situation. Not to compare the two, but just this past Thursday, March the 27th, another, yes, another mass shooting in a school nonetheless has taken place. Um, this took place in Tennessee, Nashville to be exact, at a private Presbyterian school. Um, just to give a background of the school, the Covenant School is a private Christian school located in Green Hills neighborhood. It educates students from pre-K to the sixth grade. It was founded in 2001 as a ministry of Nashville's Covenant Presbyterian Church, a congregation of the Presbyterian Church of America, and it enrolls about 200 students. Here's what took place on March the 27th, this past Monday in Nashville, Tennessee. And this is, you're going to have to bear with me on this because this is something, once again, just like domestic violence, is something that's near and dear to me. Now, not because I was involved in a school shooting or I was in sorts when I was a freshman in high school, but it wasn't a mass shooting. It was just a stupid thing. But anyway, I'll tell that story at the end. But anyways, uh this is something that hits home because I used to think about this when my girls was in school. And I think I told this story before when I talked about a mass shooting from last year or maybe the year before. It's so many I forget. But I, I got a call when I was at work one day from the school that the school was on lockdown when my girls was in high school, um, because of a possible shooter, and it wasn't fun. It ended up being a false alarm or whatever. I don't know, but that was one of many. It was like two or three different calls that we got. One time we didn't even get a call. I think I forgot how I found out, but I was home that day. I just so happened to be off of work that day, and my girls was at school, and there was supposed to be an active shooter there as well. Um, or they saw a gun. Somebody had a gun on campus or something to that effect. But needless to say, I hated that high school that my girls were going to. I thank God that they got out of it okay, along with the other children. But yeah, this is something that I feared happening to my girls. Especially because where I live and where my girls go to school at is about 20 miles from where I work. So when I'm at work, I'm about 30, 40 minutes away, And so I can't get there in enough time to get my girls to say. I would go crazy. I'll probably end up killing myself in a car crash or something, trying to rush back to get to my girls when they were at school. So that fear just drove me for 4 years when they was in high school. And that's in high school. This particular situation that we're talking about today that took place this past Monday, these were 9-year olds, man. These were 9-year olds. But here's what took place. And like I said, bear with me because this is tough. I hate talking about this. I'm tired of talking about this, but my God, man, when is it going to stop? This past Monday, uh, the alleged shooter, I hate saying alleged because it was the shooter. Anyway, Arbery Elizabeth Hale sent a message to an old friend at 9:57 a.m. saying, in an earlier message was basically a suicide note, and that he planned to die today. At 10:13 a.m., police received a call about an active shooter. They later said Hale drove a Honda Fit to the school, parked it in the lot. He shot through the side door to enter the building. Armed with two rifles and a handgun, he walked around. He walked across the second floor at the school before opening fire. Officers arrived at the school at 10:24 a.m. One talked to a teacher who told him the students were locked down and two were missing. Police officers began evacuating the first floor and searching through rooms for Hale. They heard gunshots coming from the second floor. 5 Metro Nashville police officers went upstairs and saw him firing through a window at arriving police vehicles. 2 of the officers fired 8 rounds, killing him at 10:27 a.m., 14 minutes after the initial 911 call. Aubrey Elizabeth Hale, who also went by the name Aiden, was identified by police as the shooter. He was a 28-year-old Nashville resident with no criminal record who had attended the school. Police initially identified him as a woman, but later saw that he was a transgender man, assigned female at birth, and using masculine pronouns. He was an illustrator and graphic designer who graduated from college in just this past year, 2022. A neighbor said he lived with his parents. Police Chief John Drake said Hale was under care for an emotional disorder at the time of the shooting and had legally purchased 7 firearms, including 3 recovered from his body between October 2020 and June of 2022. This is where my problem comes in. Well, there's many problems with this story, but one of the biggest problems, which is this emotional disorder thing. I'm so tired of hearing that when it comes to these mass shooters and these murderers and whatever criminals out here. But you notice that they're only used for a certain group. Do you ever notice that? You never hear about an emotional disorder or a mental health issue with black folks. You never hear it. They're just thugs and criminals. But when a white person does something, they're going through something mentally. It's some type of mental disorder. I'm not making this up. You can go back and read every single story, and it's getting frustrating to this point. And it's actually insulting to those who are truly going through disorders. Now, I'm not discounting that Arbery didn't have a disorder. It's a possibility. It's a strong possibility. I don't know. I'm not a therapist. But it's really sad that everything immediately goes to disorder when it comes to a mass shooting like this every single time. And I'm just tired of hearing it. I'm tired of hearing it because you weren't that crazy. You weren't crazy enough to buy seven weapons. You weren't that. And if they were under the care, why were they allowed to purchase 7 firearms? Why? Tell me why. Make it make sense. It doesn't. It is nothing you could do to make that make sense. Here are the victims. Here are the victims of Monday's shooting. 6 people. 3 children and 3 staff members were killed. 5 were pronounced dead at the hospital, 1 at the scene. Evelyn Dykehouse, William Kinley, and Haley Suggs were all at the age of 9. Substitute teacher Cynthia Pike, who was 61. Custodian Mike Hill, he was 61. And head of the school, Catherine Kuntz, was 60 years old. A police officer cut his hand on shattered glass, but that's, hazards of the job, I guess. But yes, 9 people. 3 of them were nine. I'm sorry, 6 people. 3 of them were nine. Um, that is sickening, man. That is real sickening. And if this individual was so raring to die, why not just kill yourself? Why go kill children? Children. I mean, technically 7 people died because Audrey, because I refuse to call him Aiden, Audrey was killed in the gunfire. So 7 people lost their lives because of guns, because of these automatic weapons. And yes, AR-15 was used. Why is this the weapon of choice for madmen? Your guess is as good as mine. But I mean, when is enough going to be enough? How many more children? I mean, old people that has been shot down, children has been shot down, white folks have been shot down, black folks has been shot down. It doesn't matter. There's no respect of class, race, religion. It doesn't matter. Nothing stops it. And you listen to these politicians who say, "Oh, we need to put more armed guards in schools." You know, what's that supposed to do? There are policemen at schools. There were police at school when I was going to school. There statistically at every mass shooting, they have guards at schools now. Not one guard has stopped a school shooting. Not one. So that makes no sense. And what happens when the guard or the police officer you place in there or whoever, what if they flip out one day? What if they have that one bad morning and they come to the school? Now who's gonna stop them? Yeah, they're the guards. You know, you put the guns in teachers' hands. I heard that suggested. Put guns in the hands of teachers. Okay. Some of the teachers when I went to school probably would have shot me because they have bad days too. That's not going to solve the problem. Get rid of the guns. So your solution to the gun problem is to put more guns in. So my house is burning down. So your solution is let's put more gasoline on it so it can burn faster. I mean, what sense does that make? It makes no sense to me. Um, uh, I'm just tired of all these mass shootings, and even more so, I'm tired of these children being murdered for just going to school. Me and a friend of mine was talking about this when this happened, and he was talking about his granddaughter and how his granddaughter came to see him for the weekend. She lives in Atlanta, he lives down here in New Orleans, and how he put her on a plane to go back home to Atlanta and stuff. And he was like, it's crazy. I felt more comfortable putting my granddaughter on an airplane by herself to fly back to Atlanta. That didn't scare me. But what scared me is when she went home, went to sleep, woke up, and put a backpack on and went to school. That's what scared me. And he had tears in his eyes talking about it. And he was dead serious. And I really had to think about and put that in perspective, like, man, that really sucks. And it's the truth. You know, I remember, now they go through these shooting drills, these active shooting drills in school. I remember going to school and we had the fire drills. Never had a fire at school. I can't think of a school having a fire. But we always had these fire drills and they were aggravating. But now they have these shooting drills because that is a possibility, strong possibility of happening. Man, it is so scary, so scary. I know, and I'm not out the woods. Yeah, my kids are in college, but they act crazy at college too. So they're not out the woods, but I do feel a little better because it seems to be aimed at younger children. Um, Knock on wood. I hope I don't jinx it, but it's just sad, man. I'm really, my heart goes out to all the families of those who lost their children, the families of those teachers who families have lost their mothers, their sisters, aunties, and all this here, and even the custodian who probably lost a father, a grandfather, whoever. And to the kids that were survived, because this is a traumatic experience, man. I can't imagine being at school when this happened. And speaking of which, let me go back to the story I had started off to talk about. Yeah, I was in a quote unquote school shooting before. Uh, Down here in, I think what year that was, 1994. I think it was when I first got to, no, 93, my freshman year in high school. And I think I told this story before, but this is for those who first time listeners. Thank you for joining, by the way. Uh, we sitting in class. Well, I wasn't in the class, but I know the dude. I knew the dude who did it. Him and the teacher didn't get along. Always moved his seat. She wanted him to sit in the front of the class. Well, he got tired of it. He felt the teacher was picking on him, so he brought a gun to school the next day. After multiple altercations with the teacher, and he went and sat back where he wanted to sit, and he pretty much told I'm getting this from those who were in the class. And he said, look, if she moves me today, I'm a shooter. And nobody really took him seriously, because around then really didn't have school shootings like that. You didn't have people killing kids. I think Columbine happened after that. I forgot when Columbine, but that was really the first one you really knew of a school shooting. But anywho's, nobody took him seriously. And sure enough, teacher came in and moved him, told him to move. So as he gets up to go move, he brings out the gun and he points it at her head, and he pulls the trigger, but the gun jammed. And he's trying to work the gun, trying to get it unjammed. And while he's, messing with it, trying to get it unjammed, it fired. Luckily, it was aimed at her leg, and it shot her in the leg. Well, it freaked him out. He drops the gun and runs. Now, at this time, I was in gym. I was in PE. So I'm sitting in the bleachers chilling. Everybody was just chilling. And we see the dude run into the gym, and that wasn't abnormal, because everybody comes to gym at any time. You always skipped out and went to the gym. Well, anyway, he went and talked to some of his friends who were in the class, and they're talking, and I can hear them from where I was sitting at. I can hear them talking, and they said to him, "Man, you need to run. You need to go." And why are you sitting in here, standing in here? So just then, over the speaker, over the loudspeaker, you hear the principal, whoever it was, say what had happened. Lock off, keep the kids in the class, and blah blah blah. So he's like, "Man, run, run, run!" Now here's the floor plan of this gymnasium that we were in. Where they were standing, there's an exit door, right? When you go out that exit door, there's nothing there. You could just run. It's going. Actually, the interstate was right by it. So you could have hopped over that fence and got away. Um, he chose to go the other way, which went through the school. This is how stupid he was. And he ran through there, at which time the gym coach, I can't remember his name. I did remember. I can't remember. And he ran and tackled him, and they held him down, and justice prevailed. So yeah, that was the closest I got to a school shooting, and that's the closest I ever want to get. It was sad, over moving the seat, man, and it just goes to show you how people's minds are just fractured. That the first thing you think of doing in an argument or a disagreement or whatever is to kill. And it's scary. And thank God that the gun jammed, that he didn't kill the woman. It's it's just, I don't know, man. But this situation here, this is not the first time, and sadly, everybody, this will not be the last. And just this year, now it's 2023. At the time of the release of this episode, it is the last day of March. All right, so it's 3 months. 3 months is in the books. Just this year, there have been 130 mass shootings in the United States. That's going off a number of two or more. The two or more were injured. 130 mass shootings in the United States in 90 days. That's roughly 1.4 shootings a day on average. That is crazy. And that spans every single state. There's nowhere. I saw a mass shooting in Vermont. there is nowhere where this is not an issue, and this needs to be addressed. Yeah, man, I'm saddened by all this, and I'm really scared. It's enough to strike fear into anybody. Can't go anywhere. Can't go to school. Can't go to church. Can't go to the grocery store. Hey, you can't even lock yourself up in your homes. No matter where you go. Oh man, I don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't know what to do. And America would tell you, well, just arm yourself. Well, you're still not stopping the killer, because if you come in my house and I have a gun, I'm gonna kill you. So either way, somebody's gonna die. And so you're still not stopping the killing. We need to stop. We find a way to ban these weapons. What you need them for? What you need them for? I don't. Anyways, yeah, I'm not gonna have time to review. I'll save that film for another time. But those are the things that I wanted to touch on today. Something that was going on that has been weighing me down for the past few days, and really couldn't concentrate on the show. All I can think about were these two issues. This school shooting, which is becoming as American as apple pie, and this Jonathan Majors deal that really is troublesome, man, because he is such a talent. And you don't want to get lost in the being a fan and siding with him because you're such a fan of his. Yeah, I want to be fair and objective, and I'm doing my best to do that. Preparing myself for the worst, but hoping for the best out of that situation. So, yeah, these are two things that have just plagued my mind all week. But hey, look, it's all good. Brighter days are ahead. It's not all doom and gloom. Brighter days are ahead. Let's just keep the families of those victims in prayer who were affected in Tennessee, and also keep Jonathan Majors and this young lady, the 30-year-old woman, keep them in prayer. Hopefully that justice is served. Either way, hopefully justice is served. And so you want to contact the show, you can email me, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. Also look me up on Twitter at KB Radio Network, and on other social media platforms, just look up the KB Radio Network. Speaking of other social media platforms and platforms in general, don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever it is you're listening to this show. And if you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Build up that audience over there. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this episode. I know it's a little different. I know it's movie goodness, and we really didn't discuss movies per se, but have no fear. We'll be back next week, bigger and better than ever, with a nice movie to review with whatever topic we come up with next week. Everybody, thank you for joining me once again. As always, I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love one another. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.